so many new pieces to this IU football team.
To me, that's going to set the tone on how you get ready for games on Saturday in the fall.
I would put that Indiana room up against anybody else in the conference, and that's something that we typically don't even come close to saying.
If you want to get total sickos committee about it, there's a position battle at long snapper too.
This is the Hoosier Huddle Podcast, part of the College Huddle Podcast Network.
Good evening, Hoosier Nation, Hoosier Huddle listeners. Recording this late Wednesday night. Probably some of the Big Ten coaches and administrators are still partying it up in Vegas. IU, Coach Cignetti, Aiden Fisher, Elijah Surratt, and Mikhail Kamara were in Vegas on Tuesday. So the Hoosiers are back in Bloomington. Turns out, Sammy, that what happens in Vegas apparently does not stay in Vegas. Curt Cignetti, to no surprise, in his second Big Ten Media Days, made quite the stir. Got everybody excited, I would say, about Indiana football from a national perspective. So, Sammy, we'll start there. First of all, how you doing? Second of all, looks like Coach Sig likes Vegas, huh?
I'm doing great. You know, making this transition off of Rivals back to Independent has been a handful, but it seems to now be kind of slowing down, and we're working on some things. So if you're a subscriber or one of our members, we're working on the things. We're checking them off, item by item. But yeah, definitely it's going well. Love the community that we're building and the coverage we have. But I thought, Curt, that was probably the best main stage media day performance I've seen. I meig maybe PJ Fleck today taking all 15 minutes so he didn't have to answer a question.
Yeah,
was up there too as an all-timer. But Sig, he defended the conference. He defended his program. He did not rest on his laurels from last year of going 11-1 and going to the playoff. He sent his team a message through that. He sent the SEC a message as well. So, it was about as good as of a performance as I've seen at a Big Ten Media Days, where it's usually a competition to see who could say the most words without saying anything. So I thought it was fantastic. He got all the SEC stands and fanboys and media guys all in a hussy. So,
yeah, we got bootleg guys making bootleg graphics. We got people raging in selfie videos. We have Barstool raging. We have ESPN raging. We have Feinbaum raging. So that's pretty good. I've been saying it. It's nice. Any IU coverage you can get in July, which has been a rarity outside of like Hoosier Huddle, basically, is a good thing for the program. So yeah, I mean, it was fun. You'll have to back it up on the field, obviously, as you did last year, right? He talked a lot. Team obviously 11-1 in the regular season playoff berth. But yeah, coming out guns blazing again.
Can we talk?
Really productive offseason.
Yeah. Can we talk about the schedule? Because this is a hill I'm actually willing to die on. So the Big Ten and James Franklin came out today, if you haven't seen it, saying the biggest mistake that the Big Ten has made is moving to 9 games.
Yeah.
When Kevin Wilton, they did that in 2000. I think it was 17 or 16 was the first year that they did it. But when they announced it, I asked Kevin Wilson, it's like, you're guaranteeing your conference goes 7-7. At the time, there were 14 teams in the Big Ten. But here's the thing. And we'll talk about it with the playoff formats and all that stuff. I put out an article today on the 4-4-2-2-1-1 format. Everybody's making a big deal out of IU canceling this Virginia series, and the 9 conference games, the 8 conference games. The SEC plays they're required to play a Power 4 out of conference team or whatever. But here's the thing: if Indiana played 8 Big Ten games, so 8 Power 4 teams, and played Virginia, to make it 9 Power 4 games and playing a Power 4 out of conference game. You're replacing one of those 9 outside of Purdue because you're not getting rid of that game. It's cemented in there. Outside of any, like, if you're switching that game, does it really make a difference on Indiana's 2027 schedule or 2026 schedule? Which is, I mean, it's if you replace UVA with Minnesota, you're probably making it an easier schedule. So it's to me, it makes it makes no sense to this argument of all that stuff. IU needs to schedule the way IU needs to. They don't want to get stuck with 6 home games in 2027, Alex.
Yeah.
Yep. And play on the road. So looking at that 2026 schedule, which you took Virginia off, maybe Northwestern at home. Maybe that's like, okay, you improve it a little bit, but you don't improve it with, so IU's playing Minnesota, Northwestern, Ohio State, Purdue, and USC at home. Maybe you trade off Northwestern and that increases schedule strength. You play at Michigan, at Nebraska, at Rutgers, and at Washington. None of those teams, those games are more difficult than, or any easier than playing Virginia at home. So you can't get caught up in it. But I think the Big Ten needs to go back to 8 games. If they want to do this play-in stuff, whatever, you could do 1 versus 2 for the championship, and then 3, you got to go 8. 8 teams, you go 3-8, 4, whatever, 4-7, 5-6, whatever you want to do in there. Or you could go 1-8, 2-7, 3-6, 4-5. But what the heck happens if your 8 seed beats your 1 seed, stuff like that. But that way, it's non-conference scheduling doesn't really matter. It's based on your conference record, and you're not relying on couple dozen people sitting in the room and using ESPN's FPI that is so biased to do rankings. You're going by standings now. There will be tiebreakers. You can't, you can't play 18 games in a season and stuff like that. So it's to me, it's simple. You either go to 10 games or you go to 8 games. It needs to be an even number so that teams have the same number of home games and away games. But that's the simple fix. And if you really want to, I would go. And if the SEC is unwilling to move to 9 games, go back to 8 games. And then you could have that Big Ten SEC challenge. You could still do the play-in tournaments and things like that. And you go to the playoff. What I don't want to see is, oh man, the 4 seed lost or the 3 seed lost, and they're still in the playoff. It's a play-in game. There's no lucky losers. This is not, the Cincinnati Open in tennis where you have a big enough name, they lose in the qualifiers and they still make the field. The regular season's got to matter, and if you're doing those top 4 seeds get in or top 4 in the standings get in, the end of the regular season is going to be bonkers. And then they kind of set it up in 2020. You did, because they had that Champions Week or whatever where you were going to play the team opposite you in the division in the standings. Right. So there is a blueprint to do it. So I'm tired of the schedule stuff.
It's the worst part about the late off season now. It's just like most teams are about 30 days away from playing. Like it's kind of, let's put the ball out in the field and forget about all of it. My thing, it continues to be, our strength of schedules are so much better. Well, that's because it's determined by preseason ESPN rankings and SP Plus rankings and things that have nothing to do with how you've played on the field. I think preseason rankings, we've talked about it on this show before. Preseason rankings continue to be a problem, I think, with just the discussion around college football and how the regular season plays out. You don't know anything really about these teams until they play a game. And by ranking these teams ahead of time, I'm sure all of the SEC is going to be ranked to start the season. They have a cushion banked in. If you lose, you'll drop down to 30. If you win, you're back in the rankings. If you win again, you're up to 17. Teams like IU aren't afforded that luxury. They weren't last year. Like, we saw it already. They were already trying to kind of put IU on the outside. They were trying to put SMU on the outside to make room for Ole Miss and Alabama and all these teams. So that's my thing. It continues to be a strength of schedule conversation, which is driven by things that are ranked and decided on right now, is when they're making up how good all of these teams are on paper, without knowing anything really about how the guys are going to mesh with all the new players, how the new coaches are going to do, how the injuries are going to be overcome. None of that matters. It's strength of schedules banked in at the beginning of the season. That's the argument that they use to prop themselves up all season long. Oh, look how good our strength of schedule was. Oh, look how good our strength of schedule was. When the real metric, strength of record, which is how good you played against the teams and what the other teams' records were, IU had a much stronger strength of record than all these people are complaining about. But again, strength of schedule, rah, look at us. We're the SEC. Every team in the SEC, Sammy, I don't know if you knew this, they all every year play at Georgia 3 times as part of the conference schedule. So it's tough, like being in the SEC. Like, they don't play Vanderbilt, Mississippi State, Arkansas, Kentucky. They don't play those teams. They play Georgia 3 times, Alabama on the road twice. Maybe they'll mix in Tennessee once in a while. Maybe if they feel like Texas, who now, of course, they're claiming Texas again because Texas is good. Last year, Texas and Oklahoma were not real SEC blood. They don't get it. They're not part of the brethren. Now, we're doing the national championship Texas thing. They're claiming those as SEC natties because of what Rhett Lashley, the SMU coach, said. So the pendulum, just like anything in America, you pick the facts that you like, you ignore the things that you don't like, and then you try to yell louder than everyone else. And that's the part about college football in July and August that I just despise. It's right now, it should be media tours and outlets covering all these teams and all these funky programs and all these cool campuses and stadiums and new players. And that's what makes college football awesome. What are you going to remember from the last 2 weeks? Cignetti and James Franklin talking.
The last 6
happens,
months.
Right. And then whatever happens from now until the first college game day. That's what you're going to talk about the whole time. Nothing about all these new players. Who's the Heisman favorite? How are these new coaches going to do? No, none of that matters. It's just Coach Cignetti got everybody,
It's NIL, strength of schedule, college football playoff rankings. But I am a nerd. I did save last year's Athlons and Lindy's, and I was told by the experts that Indiana would not make a bowl or finish above 17th in the conference because the schedule was too difficult.
Yeah, right.
Again, which is it? It's, and I would go one step further. Playoff rankings should not come out in November or whenever they come out. They come out way too early. It skews everything. You get, like you said, that 4-loss SEC team sneaks in at 21 after a big win right before they play Georgia or Texas. And then Georgia and Texas have a ranked win and things like that. But let's get to some actual on-the-field football, Alex.
Yeah, I think we'll keep it with Media Day. A couple interesting comments I thought kind of flew a little under the radar, I would say. Got a few updates on the offensive line. I think the first one that was interesting, Drew Evans, who was a standout left guard for Indiana last season, who followed Bob Bostad in from Wisconsin. He would have been an all Big Ten player if he didn't go down with the Achilles injury at the end of last season, right before the Michigan game. Fully cleared, apparently. And, fully cleared and ready to play on August 31st, I think are different things. But nonetheless encouraging. I think a lot of us were kind of like, you might get him back. We'll see. I don't think he's going to be a guy you can count on. But, if he's fully cleared already ahead of fall camp, I think that's intriguing.
Yeah, I was talking with Andy Graham about this as well. And, we got into some medical procedures and technology that just didn't exist 10 years ago. I'm still in the camp of we'll see, and I wouldn't pencil him in to start. I think Khalil Benson starts at the guard position to start the season. Offensive line is a position that puts a lot of stress on that Achilles tendon because you're exploding out off of your feet. It is also those Achilles injuries are really tough to come back from. Another thing is if he can redshirt a year, let's say he's not 100% coming back until game 6. I know Cignetti's in charge of it, but do you look at your roster, look what you have coming back, and go, we could probably use Drew Evans next year too. Now, look, if Khalil Benson is struggling or is banged up, and you're like, hey, let's throw him in there, we need him, go ahead and do it. To me, Drew Evans is kind of that luxury piece that you, at least in my mind, weren't counting on to play most or at all this year. Because of that injury, and now you might get him back. So it's kind of a bonus.
Yeah, I think he was a stud last year, and he was originally walking at Wisconsin, came to IU on a scholarship. We really didn't know what to expect, honestly.
He wasn't going to start last year either. That was Nick Kidwell.
Yeah, right. He was a monster. Yeah, Kidwell goes down, which I remember I was on a river cruise in Chicago when that, I think it was a Pete Thamel tweet came through, and I was like, here we go already, But yeah, I mean, Evans stepped in, he would have been an all-conference player if he didn't go down with the injury. Maybe still should have been, honestly. Tyler Stevens, who was a James Madison guy, came in as his backup. He was fine, but you could definitely tell that Drew Evans wasn't there. So we'll see. I mean, I'm not expecting him to start against Old Dominion. But I think it's encouraging that he's already been fully cleared, which was not something I was probably expecting. So that's one. Talking about guards, you touched on him a little bit, Sammy. They also talked Khalil Benson, who's also fully cleared. Cignetti said, obviously, Bob Bostad has the most familiarity with him at tackle from when he was at IU the first time. You bring in Mikowski from Ohio State. I think Benson probably kicks inside to right guard, and Bray Lynch is probably your left guard to start the season. We'll see, but I think that's probably how it shakes out if I had to guess who starts against Old Dominion. What do you think?
Yeah, it's nice to have position flexibility where if Mikulski struggles, you could put Khalil Benson out there as well. IU pulls their linemen too.
Yep.
I think Khalil Benson's a little bit more athletic than Mikulski. And if you're pulling guards, you want your more athletic lineman at guard. But yeah, having a guy who could move out to tackle, and if Drew Evans can push into guard, you put your best 5 on the field. I think that was the big benefit of getting Pat Coogan from Notre Dame, is that you now could put Bray Lynch back at guard. Coogan slides to center, and everything else kind of you have Carter Smith at tackle, and then you figure out the right side of your line, and you're good to go.
Yeah, obviously having Carter Smith. Well, there was an interesting comment too. We'll come back to at the end, Sammy. But yeah, having Carter Smith at left tackle, bringing in Coogan, I think those are your studs. Bray Lynch was really good last year as well. So yeah, I think offensive line right now looking good. At John Agnoli, or however you pronounce his name, I think is probably the next guy up at guard on the interior. Really excited for him this year and heading into, the upperclassmen years at IU. I think he's going to be a really good player. Tackle depth, I think, is interesting. You got some younger guys that IU is super high on, but if they have to play this year, we would obviously be super curious on how that goes. But I thought those were both good offensive line updates. It's always good when you're confident in a position as important as that heading into the season. As everyone listening to this right now knows, that's not how it's gone for IU the last decade.
They were confident last year. If you watched the spring game, Rhett Lewis said it during the spring game, and everybody was like, what? that's
Yeah.
crazy that you
Yeah,
feel
he was like
confident in this
some
group.
things to work out, but yeah.
Like they're very confident in the group. And, you know, if you look at the two deep that Jamie Jordan has put up on our site, you're looking at a lot of youth in the two deep.
Yep.
A couple, you know, there's four redshirt freshmen that are projected to be in the two deep. And that's where having a guy like Drew Evans comes in that, you know, if God forbid Mikulski goes down and Lebfried's not ready, you could put Cleo Benson at right tackle.
Yeah.
Or, you know, things like that. But, you know, now this line has a chance to be good for a couple years. And you could see the depth building. And, yeah, you have some freshmen and some redshirt freshmen. But they're guys that can move people, that had good springs and,
Yep.
you know, give this
And
team a shot.
and they're Bostad guys at this point. Like the whole room now are Bostad guys. Like it's either his recruits, guys he's had from the Allen days, or transfers that he identified. So I mean, you're not stuck with guys you don't want anymore. Not that stuck with is the right term necessarily, but these are all guys, especially the younger guys now on that two deep, which definitely check it out if you haven't. Really, really good and a good refresher as we get ready for game month here. But yeah, I think really exciting offensive line updates overall. So next one I thought was interesting. Amarian Knighton, who is a transfer from Northern Illinois. So that's my other team. So go Dogs. Who actually beat Notre Dame. A little fun fact. Was banged up in spring, so we saw he didn't play in the spring game. You know, I think he had a brace on during the game, Sammer. He was on crutches or something. But Jamari Sharp, Cignetti said right now is kind of the other guy standing out, obviously opposite of D'Angelo Pons. Sharp has had all the tools. Like he's been a kind of a up and down guy at IU so far. When he had to play last year, he did pretty well, and he's got all the tools. He might be the fastest guy on the roster, honestly. But I thought that was interesting.
Walker's gone, yeah.
Yeah.
No, you know, it was. I'm surprised they didn't mention Rylan Gandy, and maybe they did at breakout sessions since we weren't there. But it was when you watch spring practice, it was Pons at one corner, and then they rotated in, you know, Knighton, Sharp, Gandy at the other corner, just trying to figure out what combination works.
Yeah.
I thought, you know, Sharp has been in the program the longest. He might get the first look there. But I thought Rylan Gandy, you know, he was all ACC at Pitt. He's a good player.
Yep.
You cannot have – they feel good enough at corner that they let Jameer Johnson walk.
Yep.
And head to UCLA. So, and Jameer Johnson was really good last year too.
Yep.
So, you know, you feel really good at that position. You know, maybe Gandy backs up Pons as well. It's one of those things like on a two deep, you'll list somebody else, but if somebody actually goes down, you know, they're going to put the best other guy in there.
Right.
So maybe Knighton at two behind Pons, and Gandy and Sharp work the other corner. But it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And then you also have, I mean, you have a whole bunch of young dudes who played well in the spring game at that position as well.
Yeah, good room overall. But yeah, Sharp is exciting. I think Jamie was on that one too. I think he tweeted a little bit about that after the comments. But yeah, definitely a guy that could kind of burst onto the scene a little bit. He's going to get targeted. Whoever's that corner two opposite of Pons is going to get a lot of looks this year. Just now that Pons did it for 13 games and showed what he can do, I think the person opposite of him is going to be pretty busy this year. So might be by committee. Maybe Sharp takes it. Maybe Gandy takes it. Knighton, who knows? But yeah, corner's really good. I'm really interested in the safety depth. I think I posted a forum thread about that. Plug here if you have not made an account to join our forums community. Definitely do that. Forums are free. Yep, free to make an account. We have lots of people talking lots of IU football, lots of IU basketball stuff now. So would encourage you, if you're listening to this, haven't made an account, definitely do that. Get in there. Great place to chat with other people, ask questions, all that kind of stuff. Staff's in there. So Sammy, TJ, Jamie, myself, Nate, like the whole crew's in there answering questions. The scoops we have are in there too. So it's a good place to kind of stay up to date. So anyway, thought that was interesting as well, that little nugget on Jamari Sharp. Other one that I thought was really interesting. So Cignetti, I think this one kind of got lost in the flurry of comments on scheduling and his data and all this stuff that he brought to the table. But he did mention that he didn't name the team and he didn't name the player, but he said multiple teams went after players on the roster right now to try to get them into the portal in the spring window for $1 million plus. So I think
he said 1.5 million.
Yeah, which is a huge number. So, I mean, you look at IU's roster, All-Americans and Pons, Surratt, Kamara, Carter Smith is a stud and hard to find left tackles. I don't know, based on what we think probably quarterbacks are going for, maybe not Mendoza, but some of those other guys. So IU has a good list of players, which I think is really good. And, it's a good sign if teams are offering 7 figures to get your guys in the portal.
Yeah, but the bigger picture here is like this stuff has got to stop.
Yeah,
it's ruining the sport with this tampering, and just because NIL is legal, people are going to push the limits on everything, and until they get guardrails in place, and the NCAA just totally dropped the ball on this because somehow they did not see this coming when everybody else saw this coming. To have guardrails in place, to have actual penalties for tampering, to either lose profit sharing dollars or lose scholarship number, like roster limit numbers and things like that, that has to be enforced. It just does. And then there's no point in having a rule if you're not going to enforce it. It's just fake. And look, I'll go back to my education background on that. You could have the best looking classroom rules, but if you're not enforcing them, your classroom is going to turn into a circus. And that's where the sport is. It's not headed there. It is that. You have, either phone calls or texts or DMs or however you get in contact with somebody and say, hey, through agents or whatever, hey, if you come over here, we're going to give you this amount of money. It's got to stop. I'm fine with players transferring if they're not happy. I'm fine with paying players above the board and things like that. But it's like, stop with the shady stuff. And I know you can't get it all out of the game. You just can't. There's always going to be somebody who finds the next loophole. But there's like, at spring practice, oh man, you're killing the sport. Yeah, spring games don't really matter much, but there were no spring game. There was like 4 spring games on TV. Yeah. They did volleyball spring games on BTN instead of football ones, and a lot of that is because coaches don't want their stuff on TV. It's you're going to get your roster picked apart. It might be delusional and paranoid and crazy, but if you have people who are going to offer to poach your players, it's understandable.
Yeah.
But yeah. My guess, I don't know. My guess on it would be Carter Smith.
Yeah, that's a good guess. You took the macro view. My micro view on that is they didn't leave. So IU in the current setup and administration, who knows what happened there.
That's a massive win. It's a massive win and a massive, okay, we're cooking with gas now.
Yeah. I mean, you just the headline of one of those 4 or 5 guys we mentioned, Aiden Fisher, not that he would, but the headline of Aiden Fisher suddenly transfers to Oregon, in April. Can you imagine how deflating that would have felt?
Oh yeah, 'cause he's the heart and soul of the defense. He's
Yeah.
a SIG guy. He was a JMU. It would just rip the
Yeah.
heart out of your defense.
Again, not that he would have, but like,
No,
the
but yeah,
tampering and paying 7 figures for a guy, that you're really counting on, like that would suck. So,
yeah.
that's
And
at
you
least
know
a
what?
positive
I need coaches to call out. I need
I
them
don't know why they
to
don't.
name
I don't
names
know why they don't.
because they're doing it too.
Yeah, probably true. Probably true. So yeah, I thought that was a kind of interesting comment that flew a little bit under the radar. Sammy, one more topic, and then I want to talk kind of season, big picture. There were a couple preseason media polls that came out. It's like the infamous Cleveland.com Big Ten poll came out, a couple other ones. We'll get to that in a second. Jumping way ahead, we had alluded to it. A friend of the program, Matt Weaver, on our last podcast, or our last recruiting podcast, was pretty confident in Jamison Purcell, 2027 quarterback out of Chicagoland, eventually committing to IU sometime this summer. He felt like probably soonish, and he did. So IU lands a composite 4-star quarterback, 6'1", 6'2", lefty, right outside of Chicago. One of their top targets, like regardless of position for that class. So to get off to a good start, especially with a quarterback, which is a big deal, I think says a lot about hopefully the recruiting momentum that IU has.
Yeah, I will say I took a big swing and a miss on this one. I was confident that they would land Jamison Purcell. I just did not think he was going to be the next guy to commit because he is a 2027 guy. And there were still some 2026 targets out there that may head elsewhere. But I thought July 25th would come before Jamison Purcell pulled the trigger. I talked to him over the last couple of days. He sounds like the perfect fit for IU. His mom, dad, he has a couple cousins, uncles, aunts. He's got like enough IU degrees to fill 2 hands, or more. And it's close to home. He's already, as a sophomore, going into his junior season in high school, one of the Great Lakes region's top quarterbacks. A lot of big-time programs were after him: Oregon, Georgia, Florida, Miami, all those things. To get him early and get him, just going off the top of my head, is probably the earliest IU's gotten a recruit for the next class in program history, which I'm not going to focus on, but to get him this early really helps to kind of recruit other guys to the class to say, hey, this is our building block for the 2027 class, and you could build off of that. There is another huge target in 2027 with Moshawn Sales out of Lawrence North.
Does he happen to catch the ball from quarterbacks? Is he like one of those guys that would be interested in a 4-star quarterback?
He probably would be.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Okay, interesting.
Yeah. So it's a big selling point on high school recruiting too, and it kind of shows you what the future of the IU quarterback room is, and the philosophy going there is that they're taking they got Cash Herrera this class, Jamison Purcell the next class. They're stacking classes with one quarterback, so you no longer have that class where we saw Taven Jackson and Brandon Sorsby in the same class.
Yeah.
And then nobody behind them.
Yeah.
So it's starting to even out. Now you have some depth, you have some experience depth, you have some youth to develop. So they're balancing out that roster pretty well.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, his tape is really good. Love a lefty quarterback too. It's pretty sweet. So yeah, Sammy did talk to him. We have some quotes from him up on the site. So again, check that one out on the website if you haven't. Yeah, I think really statement kind of early building block here. He's a guy from what we've gathered that is going to be active and vocal with those other recruits or guys IU's looking at. And obviously look at the board right now. IU's already got a 4-star quarterback on the board for 27. that catches eyes of other high school players. Like that's a real thing. That's not just like a thing all these sites say. Like guys notice that other top tier players are interested in and buying into a program. So again, really big kind of early win for IU there. All right, Sammy, I kind of just talked about it. Kind of last topic here before we wrap, but a lot of the media and kind of other polls are starting to come out. So I saw the Cleveland.com one, which is one that's, mostly Big Ten people and people that watch a lot of games every season came out. IU was 6th in that one. Penn State is kind of the darling right now of a lot of these polls, which we'll see. I think they have a really good roster. I don't love Drew Aller, and Franklin has yet to kind of win the big game. But IU slots in at 6th. I feel like that's appropriate, but I don't know. I feel like there's still an upside play with IU this year. Obviously, a little bit of a tougher schedule, but
yeah, I mean, a lot of it goes into, again, not everybody plays everybody, and you have those quirky tie breaks and all that stuff. Like Michigan and IU could end up with the same record, but how does Michigan beat a common opponent or whatever, and they end up at 5th and Indiana 6th, or all that stuff. I think 6 is fair. It might be a little low, but I would think anywhere between 1 and 8 is fair.
Yeah.
They have Iowa and Nebraska in there and all that stuff. Finishing 5th or 6th probably means you're going 6-3 or 7-2 in the Big Ten. And I do think 7-2, depending on who the 2 losses are, probably gets you in the playoff. To piss everybody else off again. So it's 6 is fine. I mean, 6 is fair. I'd take 6. But again, who knows? Like, is it? They don't do like record predictions. It's just a poll on points. IU does not play at Michigan. They don't play Ohio State. So who knows? Those teams are going to beat up on each other, and I'll believe Penn State wins the Big Ten when I see it. They have to. Last year was the year they were supposed to knock off Ohio State. They had them at home. They had a very veteran team coming back.
They had a lead.
You had a lead. You had so many shots at the goal line to get in, and you lost. Now you have to go to Ohio State late in the season. And who knows where Penn State will be. Let's say they're undefeated and whatever. Ohio State has the best receiver in football. They have one of the best safeties in football. And their quarterback will be 9 games into that in Julian Sayin. So you give them time to get used to it. It's going to be that's a tough game for Penn State. And that's a game that they've lost. I think they've lost the last 8 in that series. So I mean, the Big Ten, I think, is anybody's game from Penn State, Ohio State, Oregon. I would even throw Michigan, Illinois, and Indiana in there in the top 6. I think anybody has a shot at that, like a realistic shot, not like a great shot, but a realistic shot. If things bounce the right way and tiebreakers go your team's way. Michigan could beat Ohio State again. Indiana could beat Oregon and lose to Penn State, and Oregon could beat Penn State and lose to Ohio State. And it's so crazy with 18 teams and all those games and tiebreakers and all that stuff. But yeah, it's going to be a fun year in the Big Ten. You should be looking at it
in the mix. Yep.
Yeah, one of the quotes, Alex, that stood out to me the most was this: improve over sustained success. And the question I'll end the night on is, what is a successful season for IU this year?
Yep.
To me, there are a number of boxes that need to be checked. IU needs to be the top 25 team, or else that narrative is going to take off. and they need to win a postseason game, whether it be a college playoff game or a bowl game. You need to get off that stupid list. And I said this on the Inside the Pylon podcast the other night. Get off those lists. You got to get off the list that everybody shows that they haven't won a postseason game in 40 years. So win a postseason game, keep your traveling trophies, beat a top 25 team, and see where it lands. Because if you do all those three, if you do 2 out of those 3 things first, you're probably going to be in the college football playoff and have a shot to either get a first round bye by winning the conference or a great shot at hosting a game.
Yeah, agree. Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think, warrants, maybe that's a forum topic that I'll throw in there tonight after this, but like, what is a successful season? I haven't thought a ton about that. I've been so locked in on the roster and the schedule and all that stuff. I haven't really thought about that too much, but uncharted territory. IU's coming off of a double-digit win season, with a roster that you could argue is more talented than last year's, depending on who you ask or what position you look at. Obviously, a ton of things go into winning a football game, but IU's set up as well as anyone to do that, starting in 37 days now, 38 days.
Yep.
So yeah, it flies by like it always does. So, all right, Sammy, what do we have ahead of August 31st here? I know the countdown is rolling on.
Countdown is rolling on. We have our first glance previews. We put out our week 7 preview at Oregon. That is some of our premium content. I put out like 1,500 words on Indiana State. Out of all the Google searches that I've done, I don't think there were 1,500 words on Indiana State in the last 2 years. It was scary how little information there was on Indiana State. So I went back, watched some Indiana State games, did a deep dive on the roster, but that's what our first glance previews are. TJ did a whole big breakdown on Oregon, offense, defense, kind of their betting previews as well on season over and unders, odds to make the playoffs. We're going to begin our position previews as we go into fall camp as well. And then, as the season rolls on, as we get further into the fall, we'll get into basketball and all that stuff. But we'll have all our football coverage, all our regular football coverage. Some things will be behind a paywall. But guess what? It is $15 a year right now for all of our stuff. And that sale ends August 30th. I mean, $15, that is like a 90% discount from everybody else out there. And I'll stand behind our work, and I'll put it up against anybody and all that stuff. So, $15 a year, it helps us run the site, helps us get to events and things like that, and hire people to improve the site. So check it out. We've got a ton of good stuff.
Yep. Yeah, ton of stuff. And again, I'll throw another plug on the forums. At least start with that. Make an account, get active, chat with some IU people. We have a really good community in there already. So really excited as games start, for people to really hopefully be happily posting away in there, but time will tell there. So yeah, Sammy said it. Summer special going on right now, from now until kickoff of the first game. So really hope folks take advantage of that. Again, it is a really good kind of way to get your feet wet. $3 a month literally gets you 12 months. So again, I think a pretty hopefully good place to start for people. So Sammy, that does it for this episode of the show. Nice 45 minutes there. Hopefully of some Indiana football talk for folks, recap media days, couple position group updates, 27 recruits, which we weren't planning for, season look ahead in terms of preseason polls and win totals, all that stuff, and much more to come. So we'll have a lot more in terms of podcasts, in terms of breakdowns, in terms of coverage when fall camp picks up, and lots of stuff heading into Indiana's home opener against Old Dominion to close out August here. Sammy, any last words?
No, football season's almost here. We'll be down in Bloomington checking out practice when they announce the schedule for media here, hopefully in the next couple of days. So stay tuned. It is going to be one of the most anticipated seasons that we've covered, and definitely a recent IU football history. So stay tuned. Join the community. We love talking with you guys and things like that. We have a lot of special stuff planned as well. Also, if you like college fantasy football, link is in the forums. Sign up. It's $20. Winner gets half the pot. Half the pot goes to site maintenance and things like that. It's a good way to support the site if you don't want to subscribe but want to do something fun too, and have a chance to win. So we'll have, if we have enough people, we'll do 2 leagues. Right now we have one 18-team Big Ten college football fantasy league.
Sweet. Follow us on Twitter as well, Hoosier_Huddle. And like we said, stay tuned. HoosierHuddle.com will have all the latest in terms of updates, recruiting, fall camp, all that good stuff. Sammy, thanks very much. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah.